Prapannaparijataya Totra Vetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gita Amruta Duhe Namaha. Om. Dear friends, welcome to the study of Gita. We are seeing the 13th chapter. In this 13th chapter, we have seen the first three shlokas, where Krishna was introducing two words called Kshetra and Kshetrajna. And though the words are new, the idea is known to us even earlier. In the beginning, from the beginning, if we have seen in the last 12 chapters, we have been seeing as to what is sentient and what is insentient, what is jiva and what is this para prakriti and apara prakriti. In the 7th chapter itself, he was talking about the insentient versus the sentient. The insentient is something which is inferior, and the sentient is something which is superior, that is para. So there, two words called para and apara were used. Para means higher, apara means lower. So similarly, kshetra is something which is lower, that which can be seen, that which can be objectified, that which can be known by the senses and by the mind. So that is what is kshetram. And kshetrajna is the knower. So we can also use the words knower and the known, seer and the seen. So this is what we have been seeing. In fact, from yesterday and also day before, I explained these words in detail. So now we will go to the next shloka. We saw the third shloka. In this third shloka, Krishna was saying, Tat kshetram yaccha yadrukcha. So what is that kshetram? From where it has come? How is it? So what are its features? How powerful it is? What are its special qualities? Etc. etc. I am going to tell you. That is what he said. Tat samasena meshrunu. I am going to tell you. You listen to that. Then now in the fourth shloka we have to start. Fourth shloka. Now he is saying, this is something which I am not telling anything new. This is something which is already there in the Vedas. And this is something which is seen by the various seers and the rishis. All these sages, the rishis, in their contemplation, all these ancient rishis, we have to understand them as not somebody who is just doing some worship or doing some bhajan or anything like that. Because sometimes we may get a wrong impression. We may have a wrong impression rather. That a rishi means somebody who is always doing, who is sitting there in a forest and always thinking about God and worship of God, etc., etc. Not like that. Rishis were actually ancient thinkers. What we call thinker or philosopher in English, we call them rishis here. That is the only difference. We call if you see the textbook in philosophy, you call them thinkers or philosopher, the philosophers of science, the philosophers, the contemplative philosophers, as we say. That is speculative philosophers. So like that, speculative philosophers, what were they speculating upon? They were speculating on what is the nature of this human body, what is the nature of this universe, etc., etc. So having speculated on those things, they arrived at certain basic truths about the human nature. So that is what Krishna is saying in the fourth chapter, fourth shloka, that is 13th adhyaya, fourth shloka. He is saying, yes, many sages have told it earlier. Rushibhir bahudha gitam chandobhir vividhaih pruthak Brahmasutra padaishchaiva hetumadbhir vinischitaihi. So what does he say? Rushibhihi bahudha gitam. Rushibhihi, by ancient seers. Rushi, and actually the etymological meaning of Rushi is one who can see clearly. Rusha gatau. And that is one who has a clear vision, one who has clear thinking. Basically, Rushi, strictly speaking, he can be called a seer or a thinker. So, Rushibhihi, by all these ancient sages, Bahudha Gitam, told in several places. Bahudha, in several places, in several contexts, it has been told. Bahudha means in several manners. Gitam means it has been told, it has been described. Where in all these various, there may be Sruti or it may be Smruti in various places. And he also says, Chandobhihi vividhaihi pruthak. Pruthak means separately. Chandobhihi. Chandas is in the Vedas, there is what is called Chandas. Chandas, ordinary meaning of Chandas is basically prosody, P-R-O-S-O-D-Y, prosody as we say. That Chandas is a metrical composition. It can, in 1 meter, each line may be having 8 letters. In some other meter, it may be having 10 letters. And sometimes in Sanskrit literature, you have got lines having 15, 20 letters in one line. So such 4 lines, they complete one poem or one shloka, as the case may be. Sometimes there are only 2 lines in a shloka, sometimes there are 4 lines. We call it couplet and what is it? The other one is, forgetting that. Anyway, that is 4 lines, stanza. So that way, the chandas is there in the Vedas, particularly in the Rig Veda. The Rig Suktas, they are all in some chandas. So in fact, when you go to Rig Veda, when you see that, you see the mantras, then who is the Rishi, who is the Devata, and what is the chandas, etc., where is the Viniyoga, etc., etc., is mentioned in the very beginning. So and so is the Rishi, so and so is the Devata, such and such is the chandas, so like that. Chandas is that particular metrical meter in which it is composed. So Bahudha Chandobhihi. So Chandas refers to the Ruk Suktas, particularly, especially the Rig Veda Suktas, they do refer to. In these Rig Veda Suktas and in several other Purana, several other Upanishads, several other portions of the Vedas, they have been mentioned Vividhaihi by several. Prathak means separately, in so many places it has been mentioned. And Brahmasutra Padaishchaiva Hetumadbhir Vinishchitaihi. Brahmasutra. We know the word Brahma. Brahma is, I need not repeat, Brahma is that Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, that supreme reality, it is called Brahma. That infinitely existing consciousness, that is the only reality. And in that reality, you visualize various God forms, you visualize forms of gods of various religions. All the religions, whatever they have visualized in the name of God, they all come under this particular concept called Brahman, supreme reality called Brahman. So what is this Brahman? That Brahman is something which is described in, or there are certain expressions which define or rather describe that particular Brahman. So Brahmasutra. So we also have got a book called Brahmasutra. So but here we are not referring to that book. So when we say Brahmasutras, we refer to one book by one sage Badarayana. Some people say it is the same as Vyasa. Some people say it is not Vyasa. There is another gentleman called Badarayana. We need not go into that. So there is a separate book in which there are 555 small, brief, aphoristic statements. Sutram. Actually, sutra is an aphoristic statement describing a particular thing, defining, not describing, defining a particular thing. Aphoristic statement. What is the significance of aphorism? The significance is the words are so dense, very few words, and full meaning has to be conveyed. No unnecessary, no superfluous word in that sentence. So that will be the strict, that is the sutra. A sutram is such a nice compound, is a nice statement in which there is no superfluity of language. Like we say, brevity is the soul of wit. So the brevity is observed and the full meaning is conveyed, and all aspects of a particular thing are thought of. Suppose you have to define, say Brahma itself. Why Brahma? Anything, let us say. All aspects of a particular thing has to be thought of, and it should not be contradicted, and it should be applicable for all situations. So that is what is sutra. There is a definition for that word sutram also. That sutram is alpaksharam asandigdham. Alpaksharam is very few, just adequate number of words, not more, not less. If you take out one word, the meaning will go away. If you add one more word, it will be superfluous. Alpaksharam asandigdham. There is absolutely no scope for any confusion, no scope for any sort of this or that. So it is so precisely it is saying. Saravat, it is full of essence. And sarvatomukham, it is applicable all over. Sarvatomukham is applicable all over. Then akshobhyam anavadyancha. Akshobhyam, you can't shake it. Anavadyam, and anavadyam means, that means there is nothing to find fault within that. There is nothing to find fault, you can't negate anything, you can't change anything. Anavadyam cha sutram, sutra vido viduhu. So that is the sutram. So in that Brahma Sutras, we have got about 555 sutras in that book, which are said to have been composed by Badarayana. So they discuss various aspects of various statements in the Vedas. For example, Vedas in one particular place they describe Brahma, so and so this is Brahma. In some other place they describe Brahma in some other thing. So what is the correlation? What does that word mean? What does this word mean? So they bring about some sort of coherent. So the entire Vedas, if you take independently, they may look like some discordant expressions. So this Brahma Sutra is a great exercise in proving that there is some unity of thought in all these things, establishing that there is a unity of thought. Brahma Sutras is a very mighty exercise in establishing that there is that unity of thought in all these Upanishads, in the Vedas. So there is some sort of, it looks as though all these rishis, they used to meet now and then. It is quite possible, because if we read Ramayana or Mahabharata and any other text and Puranas also, we see so many places where some king is performing a yajna, and for that yajna all the sages from all over they come, and then they stay there for a few months, rather sometimes a couple of years also. So in those, during that time they do have discussion, all these philosophical subjects they are discussed, and then naturally when they go back, so that man writes in a particular way, this another man writes in a particular way, but there is that unity of thought. So that is what is Brahma Sutra, but we are not referring to that book here. We are referring to statements which are there in the Upanishads, which are talking about, not without reference to that book. We are not referring to that Brahma Sutra text. We are here, Krishna is referring to the various statements which talk about the supreme reality called Brahman. Brahma Sutra Padaishchaiva, that is the lines indicating the nature of the supreme. For example, in some place it may say Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, it may say in one place. In some other place it may say Asthulam Ananu, etc., etc. So what is, does this contradict this, or do they mean the same thing? So in that way we have to analyze. So we'll just take a break and come back. Let us resume. So this Brahma Sutra here, they are referring to various lines which are there in the Upanishads or in the Vedas, which tell about the supreme reality. So then Brahma Sutra Padaishchaiva, and also Hetu Madbhihi. Hetu means you have to give reasoning. So Hetu actually is, for example, suppose there is a fire, there is a smoke. So where there is a smoke, there is fire. So the smoke is the Hetu which is proving the presence of that fire. So it is like that. Something is a Hetu, that is the cause, let us say. That is the cause which is enabling you to arrive at some particular conclusion. So this Hetu Madbhihi, that is there basically all these Upanishadic statements are rational inquiry. I have been telling you about various, in several times I told you that all these Upanishads, they are basically rational examinations of say the human body, the external nature, etc. So the Rishi tells his son, Tapasa Brahma Vijijñāsasva, by tapas, by contemplation, by meditation, you arrive at what is, you try to know what is that reality. So there is no question of I am telling you, you believe in that. It is not a question of belief, it is a question of rationally arriving at what is that reality. So that is what we see here. So Hetu Madbhihi Vinishchitaihi. Vinishchitaihi means well reasoned out, because everywhere, for example, if you take big Upanishads like Chandogya Upanishad or Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, they give examples. For example, the father is telling his son, for example, if you take one Mrutpindam, that is one big piece of, big lump of clay, and if you understand the nature of the clay, and if you see thousands of varieties of pots or utensils which are made from the clay, so all these pots, the nature of all these pots is very well known once you know the cause. Once you know the cause, the effects are very well known. Ekena Mrutpindena. All this Ekena Mrutpindena means by one lump of this Mrutpindam, this lump of clay, you will be able to know the nature of all these things. So similarly, if you know that gold, thousands of gold ornaments, thousands of varieties of gold ornaments may be there, but the essential nature is what? Essential nature is gold. In all these utensils, etc., the thousands of pots, etc., what is the nature? The nature is, the very nature is clay. So like that, when you define Brahman and when you define all these jivas, all these things, they are only manifestations in that Brahman, and you are not different from that. So that is how they say Tattvamasi, etc. Of course, I told in a very, very simple way, but that Chandogya Upanishad, there is a long discussion about this Tattvamasi. He tells 9 times, the father tells 9 times, you are that, you are that. And the commentaries, they are very, they describe that thing in great detail. So like that, Hetumadbhihi, Vinishchitaihi, very well reasoned out arguments. Then now we come to what is this Kshetram. So this is the 5th shloka. So shlokas 5 and 6, these 2 shlokas, they tell us what is this Kshetram. Kshetram is, earlier we saw Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetramityabhidhiyate. The very first shloka said, this body, O Kaunteya, O Arjuna, this body is, the body-mind complex is Kshetram. But now we are going to see that not only the body-mind complex, all the other things from which the body-mind complex is derived, that is the entire nature, the entire universe from which the body-mind complex has evolved. So all that universe is being mentioned here, because the human body is not sudden origin. It is not something which comes out of, it doesn't come out of nothing. It comes out of the external world only. A human being is made of some earth, some water, some fire, some air, and some element of space also. So all these things are there: earth, water, fire, air, and space. All the 5 pancha bhuta, as we call it, all the five elements have gone into the making of not only the human body, but the bodies of all the living beings, and also all the living things like trees, etc., etc. So what are all those things are being mentioned now in this 5th shloka. I will read the 5th shloka. Mahabhutanyahankaro buddhiravyaktamevacha. Mahabhutanyahankaro buddhiravyaktamevacha. Indriyani dashaikamcha panchachendriya gocharaha. So he is saying that not merely the body-mind complex, but the whole Prakriti, the whole universe is what is called Kshetram. And once you realize it, that you are only a derivative, you are only derived from that, another way of looking at it is, yes, I am not different from this whole universe. My body, when I am just derived from that, I am not different from that. So that awareness comes, that the whole universe, every being in the same universe is a derivative of that. So now let us see the words. Mahabhutani, ahankaraha, buddhihi, avyaktam. So these are all various, we have to split up. Mahabhutani. Mahabhutani is the 5 elements. 5 elements in their original form. We have seen that, I think I told you once or twice, that the 5 elements, there are 2 levels in which they are visualized. One is their original form, which are not mixed with other elements, and the other gross form and subtle form. Gross form and subtle form. So here we are taking the subtle form of these 5 elements. I will not explain all that because that will be very tedious for you to understand. Mahabhutani is that elements in their very subtle form. Then in that subtle form only, they go to the making of all this body-mind, this mind and senses. The Mahabhutani gross form, it goes to the making of the body, gross body. And mind and senses are from the subtle form. So this Mahabhutani, ahankaraha. Ahankara does not mean arrogance. In Telugu we say ahankara means arrogance. But in Sanskrit, ahankara is that notion of I. The first notion of I, because in that supreme reality called consciousness or supreme consciousness, there is no notion of I. Once that manifesting power is comes out from that Prakriti evolves, then the first notion of I comes in that consciousness. It is somewhat like a huge wave in an ocean. In that ocean is absolutely formless. The ocean is absolutely formless, and there is nothing visible, nothing in that. Suppose suddenly some wave comes up. That huge wave, it has got a form, it has got that wavelength, and then it has got a particular height, etc., etc. So that wave, suppose it gets the notion, yes, I am that wave. So it feels that it is something different from that ocean. So similarly, this the first notion of I is in that cosmic being called what we call Ishvara. We can call it Ishvara, the creator. In other words, all these creator, etc. So that Ishvara does not mean again Parvati's husband. So all these words, Ahankara that is the first notion of I. Then Buddhi, it is referring to the same cosmic intellect, the first intellect. And Avyaktamevacha. Avyaktam is the manifesting power in that Brahman is called Avyaktam. Avyakta, in other words, is called unmanifest. It is also called Maya. It is also called Prakriti. And from that only all these things they evolve. Then Indriyani Dasha Ekamcha. Indriya is the 5 sense organs. Indriyani, that is 5 sense organs, and the 5 motor organs, organs of action and organs of knowledge. So Dasha. Organs of knowledge is the eye, nose, the Shabda, Sparsha, not Shabda, Sparsha, Tvak, Chakshu, Shrotra, Grana, Jihva. So the 5 senses are there. And similarly the 5 motor organs. Then Indriyani Dasha, Ekamcha, and one more. And that one more is that mind. Indriyani Dasha Ekamcha means the 10 Indriyas and one, that is the mind. And mind is called Ekadashi. Ekadashi is the 11th one. So that is the reason why we are, when that Ekadashi day, we are supposed to control the mind and observe that, what can we say? Some Maunam. Maunam is basically you have to spend time in controlling your mind, eradicating some negative emotions, etc., etc. So that is the reason why people say you do some Upavasam on Ekadashi. Upavasa is Upavasati. That is, you are sitting in meditation, or rather you are sitting in front of the deity or something, and you are doing some study which is going to purify your mind. So that is what we see in that Ekadashi. So here, of course, it is not necessary to take that meaning here. Indriyani Dasha Ekamcha. Ekam is that mind, and Panchacha Indriya Gocharaha. And Indriya Gocharaha, that is all these sense objects, or rather physical objects which are known to the senses, which are known to the 5 senses. Pancha Indriya Gocharaha, the 5 things which are known to the senses. That is Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, as we say. Shabda is sound, Sparsha is the touch, Rupa is the form or appearance, Rasa, the taste, and also Gandha, the smell. These are the things, these 5 things are which are known to us. So that means he has brought in the entire Prakriti into this. The entire Prakriti he is brought into this Mahabhuta, Ahankara, Buddhi, Avyaktam, etc., etc. So this, for example, this sort of classification or listing out what are all the basic tattvas, what are all the basic essential things which we see in the nature. That was done by Sankhya. I have been telling you that there is a school of philosophy called Sankhya philosophy. So those Sankhya philosophers, they have enumerated all these things. They were starting from Prakriti, that cosmic notion, that cosmic I, that notion of I, and cosmic intellect, and then the 5, Tanmatras, the 5 elements, and then 5 gross elements, and from there the Indriyas and mind, etc. All these things, 20, all put together 24. And Vedanta also accepts all those things, because that enumeration, it is something which is done in a very scientific manner. So that enumerate all those things, they are accepted in the Vedanta also. Panchacha Indriya Gocharaha. Then, not only these, some more are there. The fifth shloka mentions certain things. And the next shloka is also telling about what are all the aspects of the mind. That is, mind is having some likes, dislike, raga, dvesha. Raga, dvesha means I like something, dvesha, I don't like something. Then I have desire, I have got some anger, then happiness. All those things are there. Anger, happiness, then willpower, and then fear. All those things. All these things, they constitute the mind. All these are aspects of the mind. So all those things, they also form part of the Prakriti. So the 6th shloka, I will read the 6th shloka. Ichha dvesha sukham dukkham sanghatas chetana dhrutihi etat kshetram samasena savikaramudahrutam. So Ichcha, so he is telling Ichcha, Dvesha, Sukham, Dukkham. So all these things, they are all aspects of the mind. So I have a desire. What is this desire? Desire is some thought which has appeared in my mind. Desire is a thought which has appeared in my mind, and that is relating to the need of some sense. Suppose I am feeling hungry, so I desire to eat something, or I desire to see something, I desire to touch something, I desire to taste something. So all these things, that is a desire, and the desire is provoked by the body-mind complex. And the desire is only a chitta vritti, as we say. It is a thought process. Chitta vritti is the process in the mind, a thought process. Then dvesha. Dvesha is again another chitta vritti, is again another thought process. I look at somebody and I think, yes, he is my enemy, and I start hating him. Then sukham. Sukham is once suppose I take something, I enjoy something, suppose I experience something, I derive some happiness. And the next time my mind says, okay, again you ask for the same rasagulla. So sukham, actually kham means indriyam. Kham is sense organ. Sukham means what is pleasing the senses. What is pleasing the sense is sukham. Kham is indriya, that is sense organ. Sukham is that which is pleasing to the sense organ, is sukham. So my sense, again my mind, it has got the earlier impression. Though it has got the earlier impression in the mind, yes, so if you eat this, that is so nice. And that same thing you long for it again. So that is sukham. Then again dukkham, that unhappiness. You have taken something and then you felt bad. So that caused some, that notion of bad, being bad. So that is what is called dukkha. It has given me some pain. It has resulted in some sort of misery. Sukham, dukkham. Then sanghata. Sanghata means a sort of assemblage. You bring about some 20, 30 objects and then you put them together and then make them work. Suppose you take a car, and in that car is basically an assemblage of hundreds and hundreds of parts. I don't exactly know how many parts are there in a car. There are several hundreds of parts. And all those parts are very well assembled to form one single unit. So that one single unit, which is an assemblage, is called sanghata. Samhata means brought together. Sanghata is it is an entity, which is functioning as one entity, but it is actually a mixture of so many things. So that is what is called sanghata. So we will continue this shloka tomorrow. Harihi Om Tat Sat.